I report. I would like to try to get these done by Thursday, at least for those of you that are already kind of ready to go. The idea being the final draft will be due next Thursday. And so if you can get your peer review done by tomorrow, that gives everyone like a week to kind of work off of feedback on the essay itself. And so that's my goal. Again, if it doesn't exactly work that way, we'll just kind of work with it. Yeah, but that's what we're looking at. Why can I get this? Yeah, okay. And so if you're not assigned someone yet, either then you hadn't turned anything in when I was doing that, and I'll get those done later today. Questions about this? About the essay, the final essay? No? Going once, going twice? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So you're talking about the final essay, right? Not the metacognitive essay?
No, we'll talk about that in a second.
Oh, okay, never mind then.
Yeah, so final essay draft we're looking at next Thursday for a due date. I'm happy to, if you want to try to set up a meeting to go over a draft, if you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not a big fan of just having you email it to me and then have me kind of comment on it. And so if you want my feedback, I'd like to set up kind of a one-to-one meeting so we can kind of talk about it. Yeah, I mean, the other way doesn't, from both personal experience and research kind of backs us up, not really effective. And so, yeah, but I'm happy to meet with you. I normally would require you to, like in the regular version of the class. I just wanted to take one more thing off your plate, so I didn't make it required. But again, I'm more than willing to meet with you and give you direct feedback if you're looking to, you know, continue to chip away at a draft. Again, this is the whole part of the class is built around the idea that like this process matters, and a big part of writing is editing and kind of responding to critique. So not just kind of getting it down in one shot, but being able to kind of recognize, you know, where you can kind of tweak and make changes to your essay. If that's something that you're interested in, we can talk after class. You can shoot me an email to see if we can schedule something. But yeah, definitely willing to do that. I would also point out, if you're looking for other feedback, the Learning Center and Writing Centers are both open. Has anyone used them during this time? No? I think they're, I mean, obviously they're online, but I'm pretty sure they're using Zoom or something similar. All right. So there's that. Other issue here is the metacognitive. You know, the word hero is being thrown around a lot recently, maybe too loosely. I have to say though, I spent hours yesterday like scanning your essays and then uploading them to Google Drive and then distributing to you. So, I mean, if you want to call me a hero, like I wouldn't agree, but I also, you know, yeah, a lot of labor. So you should have gotten a, oops, wrong share. You should have gotten a link to your essay that you wrote. Oh, that's right, at the beginning of the class. Any issues with that? Did that come through all right? Yeah? Sorry, meaning did your, let me try this again. Did your essays get to you is the question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got a thumbs up, we got some yeses, all right. Oh. Problem with having multiple screens, you don't know where everything is. All right. So this is the, let's go. I don't want to be paused. Technology. All right. So this is the metacognitive essay, and so this is designed to be a reflection essay. Sorry, that's the wrong one. We'll get it. So these are designed to be reflection essays. in regular class, I would have given you those essays back physically for you to work on. But the idea is the same, is that you want to kind of use that as just kind of something to refresh your memory of what you were kind of thinking about at the beginning of the semester, and then to reflect on that. The screen showing up? All right.
Yeah.
So the idea is that that assignment, I had asked you who you were as writers, and so who you are as a writer, and you wrote your essay in response to that. For this assignment, the idea is to reflect on who you are as a writer at the end of the semester. And so to do so, reread your essay. It should be a nice exercise in kind of remembering who you were in January. That January self is, very innocent, doesn't know what's coming yet. So, appreciate that moment in time. But reread that, and then you'll write a 2-page essay, double space, answering basically the same question. Who are you as a writer after a semester of Social 130W? You're welcome to interpret that question any way that makes sense to you. In general, you probably ideally have a mixture of kind of tangible things that you've learned. So whether it's, how to kind of make shorter sentences, or how to use a semicolon, or whatever it is that you feel like you've learned. So like tangible things is good here, but also, again, big picture things as well, because we've also been talking about, social issues throughout the course. So again, your essay may include a mixture of tangible skills and concepts that you learned, challenges you faced, and we faced a lot of them, achievements that you're proud of throughout this process. And so I think all of those kind of are examples of reflections that you might add to this. I gave you some bullet points here. This is not like a paint by numbers where you should just be answering each one of those. These are just ideas about how you might approach this topic. And so big questions here would be, how have you changed as a writer, as a person, as a local resident? You might think about what specific aspects of the course meant the most or challenged you intellectually, and then why. So explaining why a particular idea or theory or concept was interesting to you, or important to you, or challenged you, or helpful to you. And maybe thinking about how that reflects in real world ways now. Alternatively, you might think about, are there aspects of the course experience? And I would think about like experience here. So not just the writing that you did, but the group work that you did, the kind of lectures and whatnot, the overall kind of experience of being in the class. Are there things about that you anticipate might stick with you for 5 years or more? And if so, what and then why? If you see something like that, like how do you envision it impacting your everyday life, your relationships with other people, your community, and or larger society? Last point here, has any information or your new understandings of particular social issues changed you in any way? So did you learn something that made you kind of rethink about just your beliefs or the way that you act? There's specific examples of that. For example, have you changed your thinking about a social issue? Have you changed the way you behave in response to that changed understanding? Have you become more or less active in your community because of knowledge and or frames of understanding, etc.? You don't need to talk about all of those things. You don't need to talk about any of those things, really, if it doesn't make sense to you. But the idea is just to kind of get some reflection on, again, what you went through within the context of the course. The only thing I'm requiring you to do as part of this is to reference at least one specific point that you made in your original essay. So when you reread that, again, try to use at least one specific idea that's in that essay to respond to in this longer one. If you weren't in the class yet, or if you missed that day and you didn't write that essay, just do your best to kind of remember kind of where you were in terms of your concerns or just anxieties or whatever, your perceptions of the class in their beginning, and kind of use that as a contrast to where you're at now. So there's some big picture ideas in these kind of points, but I want to make this clear. This is not a competition. I'm not measuring, I'm not grading you on like how big your change is. So you don't need to, say that you started off as a horrible human being and now you're Mother Teresa. The idea is just to reflect. So if your change is nothing, then that's okay. If your change is that you just kind of reinforced existing ideas and maybe you just kind of learn to use a comma better, that's fine too. So I'm not grading you on the quality of your transformation. I'm curious about kind of your reflection on these things as individuals who have kind of gone through a process. Yeah, questions about this? Comments, concerns?
Do you need this in any type of format, or are we free to just kind of type it up and submit it single space? Does it have to be double space?
Well, it's double space, so 2 pages, double space. Beyond that, not a lot of specific formats here or formatting requirements.
Okay. You said 2 pages?
2 pages, double spaced.
Got it.
Other questions, comments, concerns? In addition to that, I put this on the bottom. This is something I would normally do during our in-class final essay. Obviously, we're not doing that. And so if you can give me, in addition to your 2 pages, if you just give me like another couple sentences of advice for the next batch of Social 130W students, what advice would you have given yourself if you could go back in January to prepare for the class, or to kind of, if you were anxious, to kind of alleviate that anxiety? Or are there things that you think just worked well that would have been nice if you would have started that earlier? But just any kind of advice that you think would be helpful to folks coming in to the next version of the class.
And that part would be on the 3rd page, right? So that would be considered the 3rd page?
More or less, yeah. Yeah. I'm not asking you to do this part because I think we've talked about it a lot, but if there are things that you think would help specifically for an online version of this course, because it feels like that's where we're headed, you can throw that in there as well. Yeah, but just kind of general advice about what would help you kind of survive and thrive in the course. Yeah. Questions, comments, concerns about any of this?
So you're not sure if we're going online next semester?
I'm not sure. I would imagine we are.
Because I got an email and it said that the social department is going online, but
I think all of us individually, they asked us basically to designate our courses for next semester. And so basically, if you want to have a face-to-face class right now, you have to kind of like petition for it.
oh,
And so I think as a department, I think what most of us defaulted to was to not petition, because there's really no kind of immediate justification. Most of us want to teach face-to-face, but like that's our justification that we want to. And so there is the ones that are the classes that might be face-to-face are more where like labs, I think, where that face-to-face is like important in a very specific way. And so yeah, I think what that email is saying is that all the individual instructors within the department have basically agreed that we're going to default to online, and then if things change, then we'll make that adjustment. But I think what that means is within our department, there were no specific classes that really warranted a petition for face-to-face. Other departments are different though, and other instructors may be different. And so so I teach in 2 departments. So in both of our departments, we got notifications to make a decision basically. And so I think with few exceptions across the board, people just kind of recognize that the likelihood of face-to-face is kind of limited. So you might as well just kind of cut your losses and prepare for online. So if I was a student, I would kind of work out that assumption as well. So I don't think the university will make that announcement for a while though, for a variety of reasons.
How do you feel about classes going online?
Definitely not ideal, but it's one of those things that's not good for me individually, but it's I'm not an individual right now. Like we're all part of a chain, and that chain requires us to make sacrifices, and you know. So in that sense, like I'm fine with it. Like it's it's an immediate inconvenience, but in the long run, if it helps us to kind of be healthier as a society and it gets us back to normal quicker, then do what you got to do. Like that was the kind of discussion. Like I would like to teach face to face, but like again, if that's my only justification, that can't be enough. Because what face to face means in theory is that I may be putting myself at risk, I may be putting students at risk. And is that worth it just for like my own individual preference? Probably not. Yeah.
I'm graduating, so I don't have to deal with it.
You're graduating this semester?
Yeah, in like a week.
I mean, we'll see. But
I will do it.
I'm kidding.
I'm like, that's happening. But that's crazy for all of you guys that are having to still deal with that and the change because.
So what have they told you about graduation?
That I get all these different things, right? Some days it's like we're postponing it. Some days it's just, take your.
Yeah, they're floating. I mean, there's a lot of, I think, discussion going around.
Yeah.
It's like on the high school level too. There's just a lot of discussion about, are there any ways to do this live?
I just kind of think like I'm happy that Fresno State canceled early just so that you can mourn that and get over it and then move forward. But for schools that are continuing to go back and forth, it's kind of a bummer for people to be kind of
holding on to that hope.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I think it's interesting. They still are sending like me like one of those cords or whatever, and I'm like, thank you, but I'm not even walking, so there's no reason for me to get these different things, but it's nice. So
I mean, my hope and my assumption, honestly, is that they'll, there will be a time where that ceremony will happen.
Yeah, I hope so, but.
And I would encourage, everyone to participate because that is, it's a nice moment for you as a student, for family, for the university. So yeah, it's hard for me to imagine a scenario where they just, say, no, we're not going to do it. I think we're just in this mode of when we're going to do it. That's my hope, at least. But that feels like the conversations that have been happening. And so I know the high schools have been exploring options. Can they do this in some kind of limited way?
Yeah. I work with Clovis Unified, and I got an email that they have this like very extensive plan about like 4, different ideas about how they would graduate. And one of them seems pretty interesting. It's like you have like a time or whatever, and you get like 4 people in your family to go with you, and then you get to walk across the stage, maybe you receive some sort of diploma or your cap and gown, and that's kind of the way that they're doing it, and it spans the whole entire week, in order to do the social distancing kind of thing. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think this moment is forcing people to be creative, and so
yeah.
we'll see what comes out. This chat room is active today. Isaiah's asking about money. Yeah, did you all get your money? The CARES Act money? Yeah. Did you use it responsibly? No. What'd you spend it on, Chloe?
My boyfriend is demanding that I buy him cups because I broke his cup. And he wants these stupid, expensive, fancy cups.
You know what, Chloe? You are a strong, independent woman. You don't need to listen to him.
All right, I don't need to listen to him.
Go buy him some red Solo cups and.
Yeah, I know, right? I should.
Saving it for loan payments. That's smart, Jose. Saving it for rent. Yeah, smart.
I put a little bit into savings, and then I bought me a drawing tablet.
Drawing tablet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's functional, right? Because you do art stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Saving for a car payment. Okay. Okay. Look at you guys being adults and responsible. That was this. I know this discussion happened last week. That's you guys are talking about just the general money, like from the federal government. Did anything work out with the school? Were they giving you money?
Yeah, I got a random, well, I want to say random, but I got a text like one morning and I didn't understand what it was. And then I saw, on the Facebook page for Fresno, I saw a post that explained what it is. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool.
So Jose's saying he wasted his federal money, but you got school money too.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So in theory, you guys got 2 checks.
Yeah.
For being out of work for 2 months, yeah.
But that's separate too. So in theory, you could be getting 3 checks. So your unemployment, your the money from the federal government, and then from the school. Interesting. Does this change? Does everyone get the same amount from the school? Or is that depending on your financial aid?
It depends on your estimated family contribution and how many units you're taking.
Interesting. So what are you don't have to put your personal business out there. What's our range here? What are people talking about? A couple $100, $1,000?
Full time and estimated family contribution of 0 is 1,400, and then if you're part time, it's half of that. But if you're taking all online classes or taking online credentials or anything like that, you won't get the funds.
Doesn't make sense.
I got 1,400.
Okay, flexing. All right. And that money came from the school, so it came from Fresno State.
Yeah. Well, what I heard is that Fresno State got the 16 million, and they were dividing that.
But in terms of the deposit came from Fresno State.
Oh, well, I'm getting mine mailed because I don't really trust direct deposit.
Okay.
It came in
Plus, I won't spend it faster.
Yeah.
I won't spend it. It
Interesting.
takes a while to get.
This is good to know. Any other resources people have stumbled onto or found particularly helpful? I know we got a lot of
Food
information.
closet for Fresno State's pretty cool. It's still up and running, and it's.
Can you say it again, Emily? Sorry, I missed the first part of that.
The Fresno State food closet kind of cabinet resource is pretty cool.
Pantry, that's all right.
Yeah,
Pantry,
whatever. It's one of those things.
closet.
It's a small box in a
Yeah.
room, so that's a good resource for people.
And so they're still open physically, so you can walk in.
Yeah, it seems like what I heard is that you get bags of food just because they want to limit contact, but you can go as much as you want. And I saw that they also have diapers and things like that for people who have families, so that's a good resource.
Any other resources?
Emily, do you know what it is? Oh, sorry.
What?
I'm just curious, what kind of food? Is it box, canned?
Yeah, there's a mixture. You get some produce, like oranges or whatever, and then there's a mixture of breakfast, snack food, and then kind of canned or dinner, lunch sort of stuff. So
Nanette, I don't know if you know this on your end, but I was reading somewhere where the state is starting to issue boxes. No, have you ever heard about that? Or
Yeah. So, and it comes from USDA, but it's for our community in Kings County. It's our community action organization. So they have drive-through food distribution, and a lot of communities have drive-through food distributions. And what's really cool about those is that you don't have to demonstrate need other than just showing up. I mean, I don't think you're going to go to the trouble of going to get the food if you don't need it, but that's what's really cool is they are there's no you drive up and they put it in your trunk or in your back seat. So
interesting.
Yeah, the state's got a lot of things going right now.
And those are organized through the county, so you would search for your county food distribution.
Yeah, in Kings County, our 211kingscounty.org has a food distribution calendar, and you can literally go every day to look at the calendar on where you can go to get food. So food boxes, pantries, and congregate meals.
Interesting. That's good to know. Yeah, I mean, take advantage of these resources, especially if you need it. Okay. Anything else anyone's stumbled onto or been using that's been helpful?
I know that undocumented students and international students don't qualify for like any of the federal money, well, the school money that they're getting. So I think they got like other funds for them, but I don't know how that works.
Yeah, the state's trying to give some money to undocumented.
Yeah, and it's really, if you are undocumented, Proteus is an organization, at least in Kings and Tulare counties. It might be in Fresno, but Proteus can help with rent assistance, utility assistance, food assistance.
What was the name of that?
Proteus.
Proteus.
And Proteus. And also
How do you spell that?
drive-through, Proteus. And also the drive-through food distributions, they don't ask for any type of documentation on residency status.
You just
Actually, there's a lot of programs that provide services that don't ask that. But in terms of the subsidies that we, that folks have been getting from the federal government, it's true that undocumented families are not getting any help there.
Interesting.
Which is ridiculous because they pay taxes. But that's just my side note.
Yeah, they on average put more into the pot than they take out. Good. This is helpful. It's good to know. Generally, you guys excited for the semester to be ending, or where we at? Emphatic yes from Emily. Other yeses. Any concerns about the semester ending, or?
Once the semester ends, I officially have absolutely nothing to do.
So it's all Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Yeah, except binge TV. So at least in school, I have some structure, but once it's over, it's just
no structure.
Yep.
That's been my biggest issue since this whole thing is lack of schedule and structure. And like, yeah, we have our scheduled assignments, but I like that I have to go leave my house and then meet up with people and everything.
Yeah, and so you're missing that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Do we have strategies for next semester?
Not so much.
No.
Kind of just winging it with whatever emails I get.
Yeah. And now you seem to be shaking your head. Do you have a strategy for next semester?
Yeah, I've already signed up for my classes. I'm contemplating summer, but I got 2 emails that I got two rather large scholarships. And I can't even tell you how excited. My sons are all grown, but I texted every single one of them that night. It was kind of late too. And I said, they couldn't, well, yeah, they were excited. They couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Nice.
When it said congratulations, you've been awarded, I thought, if this is just $500, I'm going to lose it right here in this kitchen. And the first one was $2,500.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were, I think they were merit because they have a pretty high GPA. I think for I'm probably grant funding, so but that's I'm putting forth the profile of the organization I work for, but to put my own story out there and to be rewarded in that way. I'm really proud. I feel really awesome. Thank you. I'm very grateful. Very, very grateful.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We get this chat room going.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's nice when money comes in. So you'll be treating us all to Hanford ice cream? That's what I'm hearing?
Sure.
Yeah, all right. Nice.
Sure, yeah.
Anyone taking next semester off? No? You know, I'd say that that's always an option, and especially now, like if this is just not your thing, you know, if it feels like it's going to be if it feels like it's going to be a burden on you to kind of be online, then you know that's always an available option. Yeah, so it'll be an interesting semester next semester. Okay. All right, you guys tangented me successfully. Let me go back here. Last day of the chat. You gotta get all your chats out now. Let me pull this up. Well, let me see where we are on time. Yeah, we'll be able to squeeze something in. So I usually like to end this class on debate, because I like debates. They're fun ways to kind of get you involved. Usually what that debate would be is basically kind of Derber versus Loeb, but we kind of lost that thread as we made this transition. So actually I think this week's readings, and I know Nanette emailed me that they weren't working. Canvas is, yeah, I don't like it. But they should be available now. But we can do this even without them. So the question on the table here, and so we'll give you some time to we'll put you into two big groups and have you kind of see if we can kind of come up with some points here. But the kind of central question I think that runs through these readings, but really this topic of corporate social responsibility, is the idea is corporate desire to make profit fundamentally at odds with the need to be socially responsible? So are those two things that can kind of coexist, or are they just fundamentally kind of working against each other? Are you guys seeing the one screen?
Yes.
And so that's the question that we'll debate. Are these things fundamentally at odds? In other words, the pro side of this debate is that they are fundamentally at odds. So what that means is that you can't really both be profit driven and be socially responsible. There's something about seeking profit that inherently makes you less responsible in essence. The other side of this, then, the con side of this question is that you can be both. That there are ways to be both profitable and still be socially responsible. Anyone have like a quick definition here for social responsibility, or corporate social responsibility, or just a general understanding of it?
It is placing value on your employees and on society and the environment, placing value on that above profit.
Okay. Or at the very least, equal to profit, right? I think the idea of this comes down to, like, when we evaluate corporations, in this case, there should be a threshold beyond just like legality. Like, in other words, it's not just, are you doing something legal or illegal? Do you have obligations beyond that? So to treat your workers better, to contribute to the community, to not pollute the planet, what have you. So these are kind of the main metrics, I think, that we see in social responsibility. And so the idea is, yeah, do you have an obligation beyond just kind of the bare minimum here to kind of be a good citizen and to be a good employer, to kind of do right by your consumers, et cetera. So we'll do this relatively quickly-ish. But in your groups, what we're after here is 3 main points that will support either being pro or con, some examples to back up those points, and then a thesis that kind of brings it all together. And what you're going to do is you'll have a team leader who will deliver the thesis statement. And so the thesis statement should be, you know, we're pro because da 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 da. And your reasons then should be the 3 points basically that you're developing as a group. In other words, that should be in your thesis. Each team member should be doing something, either contributing a point, maybe thinking about a counterpoint for rebuttal round and or providing some examples. We're going to do this randomly. Any volunteers for team leaders? Me too. What's that? Huh? No? Volunteers? No? Always taking a drink of water to avoid volunteering. It's convenient. Chloe, I'm going to nominate you. Anyone else want to jump in? Lynette, can I nominate you?
Okay.
All right.
I'm horrible at thesis statements, but I'm
That's
game.
right. You have the group to help you. That's the whole idea.
Okay, awesome.
All right. We are going to zoom through this, no pun intended, or maybe partially intended. Yeah, like that is good. So let's see. So Chloe's group, you chose side. Nanette, did you seed leadership? Is that what happened? Can I make it back?
Yeah, something like that happened.
You're muted.
Muted.
Yeah.
Lynette, you're muted.
Okay, I was saying, Mia is a born leader. You just didn't recognize that from the very beginning. So Mia's got it, and then I've got Mia's back, and then Maribel has my back, and then Jose and Isaiah have her back. So we have a plan.
So Mia, so
We are a group with a plan.
do you guys want to go first or second, Mia?
We'll go second, just
Right.
because.
Wow. Okay.
Let's see. Okay. All right, so let's go to the pro group. And so the pro position here is that these things are fundamentally at odds, that you can't be both profit-driven and socially responsible. Pro group, let's hear your opening statement, your thesis.
So the thesis that we came up with is that corporations cannot maintain social responsibility that values the environment, their employees, and the consumer with the desire to make a substantial profit.
Say that one more, so environment.
So corporations cannot maintain social responsibility that values the environment, their employees, and the consumer with the desire to make a substantial profit.
Okay. Let's go con, opening statement.
We said companies can keep social responsibility due to platform initiative. That way, like they have like different platforms and stuff like that. We also talked about let's see, the employee turnover and the happiness of customers to loyal corporate Maribel, to companies that keep social responsibilities and stuff. So we have like customer loyalty and employee loyalty.
So loyalty for being responsible.
Mm-hmm. I cannot say that like I right. I got a little nervous.
Makes sense. Let's go pro side point one.
Is one of us should
One of us, yeah. One of you.
When corporations desire to make a profit, they forego environmental standards. So an example that we have spoken about is Volkswagen. Chloe and Abigail and a lot of us have had like read an article or had an experience with Volkswagen that they sell vehicles that from the outside perspective look like they're very fuel efficient, but they definitely are not environmentally friendly. And so, you know, they kind of mask their real agenda in behind, you know, that in order to make a profit.
Okay. Let's go con side point one.
So one of the things that we discussed was that corporations can maintain the bottom line by treating their employees well. And one example of a corporation that does not do that is Walmart, that offers, most positions are part-time, low wage, no benefits. Conversely, Costco employs, pays their employees better. They are primarily full-time positions, benefited positions, and as a result of that, there is lower employee turnover. There is a direct correlation between employee turnover and the capacity of a business to operate effectively, which affects the bottom line. And Costco is an example of that. Walmart is not.
Okay.
Ba-bam.
Let's go pro side point 2.
We were also discussing about how like in China with the sweatshops, you know, we also discussed in class how like greedy they were, like greed motivated, and it was very intentional that they did not invest in any like safe working conditions, and they wouldn't, you know, intentionally do things to save them money instead of, you know, make it to keep a profit, and instead of like spending it in the long run, because everything had to be short run, like, okay, I have to make this much money in like say 2 days, instead of, you know, screw Susie and, you know, she lost her finger, but oh well, I made like $5,000 that day.
Tough to be Susie. All right.
It should be noted
No,
that none of the,
no noting. We'll go on the rebuttal round.
okay.
Hold on the notes. Con side point 2.
Another topic that was brought up was like how we said in our thesis was just the amount of platforms they have. Jose brought up an example from Ben and Jerry's and how they were a few months, and I see them do this a lot. They were trying to get people to vote. So they have like these political kind of stands that they have just to get the social the people going. So that would be like another good thing that regarding platforms, you have these people, these companies that are able to get out to the greater public.
Okay. Let's go pro side point 3. Chloe gang. Chloe gang. No.
Going back to what Lynette was saying about Walmart, they, as of with everything going on, they don't care about the safety of the workers, which is one thing they're not responsible with. My friend works at Walmart, and people tested positive for COVID, but the manager doesn't want to talk it or confirm it, because then that would be they would be forced to close down the store, which is what they don't want to do, because they want to make profits.
Amen. That's right.
My dog is getting angry at me. Sorry. She doesn't like oppression, this dog. Con side point 3. You got a new voice.
Our third, do you guys want to discuss brand loyalty, or do you guys want me to take it?
Then we get someone else.
Come on, guys, brand loyalty. Remember, people are more likely to be brand loyal. Remember?
Yeah, people will remain loyal to their brands that support them more, and will just be more profit for them.
All right, let's, a lot on the table here, so let's open this up. I think we can build off of this last point a little bit. And so I think the gist of this point is that actually there may be examples where it's profitable to be socially responsible, that people may feel loyalty to a company if it's that company is known to be responsible. Thoughts on this, pro people? Is there anything wrong with people profiting off of the perception that they're socially responsible?
I think that, oh, sorry. I think that there's definitely something wrong with like using your perception of being socially responsible to make people continue to use your brand. Because really we can ask the question of what is responsible, right? It's just a concept. It's a business concept that people use and talk about a lot, but there's no standard of what is responsible. So what may be viewed as responsible for one company may be not is socially responsible for other people or the consumer. So I think it's just completely a mask that people or corporations use to get people.
I disagree. Responsible. So use Walmart as an example. You can't provide safety for your employee. I mean, who would think that it's not reasonable that there's any gray area in the middle of a global pandemic that you would not provide protective gear, protective equipment for your employees?
Yeah, we could say that for that example. Drastic, things are obviously we know what's right from wrong. But I think if we use like multi-billion-dollar companies like Coca-Cola, who are saying that they are spending millions of dollars to help women receive employment and education, that would, for the most part, be seen as responsible toward their employees. However, they might just be paying them cents on the hour, really not making a difference. So, that's just my little
thoughts on this. So I think one of the ideas that Emily's bringing up is how do we or can we factor in if a company is doing some things that are generally agreed to be positive? The Coke example of funding initiatives for women entrepreneurs. At the same time that they may be doing things that are negative, paying their workers not as much, or whatever the case may be. Do these things wash out in the end? Like, what's the calculus here? How do we figure this out?
Like, there's Starbucks, and they have all these environmental things going on, switching the straws out, all that. They're awesome with their workers right now, giving them paid leave. But I mean, that could be socially responsible for some aspects, but behind the scenes, their coffee beans are from child labor. They're not environmentally friendly. So it's just, sure, any corporation you could say, well, they're responsible with their consumers, they're responsible with the environment, but there's always going to be some aspect that they are not being responsible for that they can choose to just ignore, because on most corporate websites, they have a tab about corporate responsibility, and they pick what goes on there, and they pick what they want to include. It's like, I wrote my paper on CVS, they've got a whole section on corporate responsibility, and they pick what goes there, and then you can look up things that aren't there and see that they're not being responsible in those other aspects.
So do those positive things get washed out by the negative things?
Definitely not. I mean, it's awesome that they have some things, but it's about, like I think Emily mentioned, a lot of corporations will focus on fixing things rather than just raising the standards.
Interesting. Con side, this kind of basic idea that these positive things in some cases are just kind of a smokescreen to kind of hide things that might be not good.
No, I think the positive things are material. I think that there's effort in that. There's effort. Costco has, it's not just talking the talk, it's walking the walk. It is our profit. We probably could hire people for minimum wage, and we probably could make folks work part-time, but we've made a conscious choice to pay people better, to give them benefits, and to give them full-time jobs. And I think that you have to give credit where credit's due.
Let me ask the question this way on that front. So if we look at a Costco, Costco's business model is still predicated on us like consuming a lot of stuff and maybe wasting that stuff, or just kind of, a lifestyle of consumption.
Costco's not wasting.
Well, I mean, in one sense, like if we're just going out and buying stuff that we don't always need.
But that's on us.
What's that?
But that's on us. That's not on Costco. How do they know we don't have 20 kids?
I mean, that can be on us, but they could also, like, my significant other's mom brought us some paper towels from Costco today, and the roll is as big as me, like, you know, so it's huge. So, and it's all wrapped in plastic, every single thing, the whole thing's wrapped in plastic, and every roll is individually wrapped in plastic. So, I mean, having that much bulk items, you could maybe shift to some eco-friendly packaging at least, so then you're not just all this waste, wrap it in paper or something, I don't know, but there's...
But those products are manufactured that way. Costco doesn't make the product, they sell the product, and the consumers buy it. So how can Costco be liable for the packaging when they're not the ones doing the packaging?
I mean, Trader Joe's, they're a bit more like on the eco side, and everything you buy there is pretty responsibly packaged. They've got, you know, it's in canned aluminum, paper. It's what you choose to put on your shelves, because a lot of this plastic is ending up in the oceans, and then they're not being responsible to care. Okay, well, it's not our problem. Once it leaves our store, it's not our problem, but you're still putting out all this plastic that is polluting our planet. So then you could shop somewhere else, where like Trader Joe's or Sprouts, where they try to have more sustainable packaging.
There's probably no retail industry or manufacturing, well, retail industry that has stellar, perfect environmental policies, but I think how companies treat people is more, I mean, the environment is important, but for me personally, I think the environment's very important. But how corporations treat people, I think how they treat them, not how they say, not what their mission statement says, but how they treat their employees, to me, is really the sum of who they are as a company and as a corporation. And I think you have to look at that as, I think that rises to the top, in my opinion.
I mean, kind of going off what everyone was saying, I think we could go back to the main question of, is that profit fundamentally at odds with being socially responsible? And I think it is, because, say, to make a profit, right, they're buying product to sell product. You would lose money if you were taking into consideration the environment to be socially responsible. I think the need for profit and social responsibility is at odds, because they're constantly fighting one another.
Good claim. Mia gang, other voices here? Are corporations are there examples of corporations that are willing to sacrifice profit? So is Costco, in this Costco example, are they losing profit for this take? Or like what I think your original argument here was that this is actually beneficial to them, right? Economically, by having these good practices, they save on having to rehire a bunch of people and all that kind of stuff. Would they be doing this if this was eating away at profit? Good question.
Well, I don't think I think you have to find a balance, because you don't stay in business if you don't make any profit. Nobody stays in business if you don't make any profit.
Interesting.
I think it's how you make the profit.
I think one of the undercurrents of this is definitely then consumers. Should consumers themselves be part of a equation of social responsibility, or is this purely in the ballpark of corporations and decisions they make?
No, consumers should have a part
Yeah?
of it.
What does that argument sound like?
Going back to what Chloe was saying about Starbucks, like people can know that, but they would still go for their morning coffee.
Interesting. Do consumers have a responsibility to be educated, or is it the responsibility of the corporation to kind of be transparent and educate about these issues? So should Starbucks be talking about how it's getting its coffee beans in this example?
I feel like that's what came first, the chicken or the egg question.
Yeah.
just because, you know, you do have these companies who I feel do have a responsibility to let the common public know, hey, this is where I'm getting my stuff. But then at the same time, you know, seeing it from like the corporate eyes, you know, you don't want people to find out you have these stuff. And then as a person, you also, like, as an individual, you have to, like, you know, try to educate yourself, like, where these things are coming from if you don't know. So I believe, like, the responsibility is shared there.
Interesting.
I mean, in my opinion, because I try to be as responsible as I can as a consumer, obviously it's impossible to be perfect, but if I Google where does Starbucks get their coffee and it does not come up anywhere on their website, that probably raises some questions for me. Whereas if I can Google like High Top Coffee here in Tower District, where they get their coffee, and it comes right up, then that's where you have to make a choice of, okay, they might not be getting their coffee in the most sustainable way, Starbucks, but I can see right here that High Top is getting their coffee sustainably. So
Interesting. I'm
To
guessing.
the credit of the younger generation, you all are much more in tune to this than us older folks. We are.
Hey. Now go ahead.
I just think that I just see I see that turning. I see that younger people are much more conscientious about where the coffee beans come from, and they're prepared to do something about that. Whereas, you know, my friends are the hell with it. I can't get through the day without coffee. So, you know, I don't, you know, it's not a consideration, and I applaud. I think it is.
Something I think is access to information, which has changed, and so it's
True.
easier to kind of know these things than it would have been, you know, 30 years ago or whatever. The cynical side of this would be, are you guys doing just enough research to kind of make yourself feel good, but they're not fundamentally changing like the pattern? And I think these are where these arguments about, like, at the end of the day, if consumption is consumption itself the problem, and then if you are, you know, consuming, does it really matter what you're consuming? Like, I choose not to buy Nike because they have bad reputation, but I would be naive to think that buying anything else is fundamentally disconnected from that, right? But I feel morally whatever. Like, not to flex, I just bought a Volt, which means about the 90% of my community now will be electric. So obviously I'm a much better person than all of you. But like, at the end of the day, like, is it like a Volt is still a product that I'm purchasing that has all kinds of things that are probably going to end up in a landfill at some point. And so do I pick and choose the elements that I think are conscious and then kind of ignore or downplay the ones that are where I'm more complicit? But that's the cynical read. Other folks, do you feel like you've seen this in your own consumption patterns? Are you conscious of what you're buying and where you're buying it?
Yeah, for the most part. But there's so many products out there. It's really hard to like you said earlier, like, just because like you ignore one product because you don't agree with whatever they do, but there's like a million other similar products, and how do you know those aren't like virtually bad as well? And especially with like necessity items too, it's like, how are you going to choose, you know?
Yeah. And then they all end up like the same corporation owns like 30 different.
It's kind of like a lesser of two evils almost kind of thing. And have you guys, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of that show, The Good Place, where they basically go over the subject for the entire show.
Yeah, A Good Place is interesting because like the at one point the kind of core argument they're making is that by living in the 21st century, you're already bad.
Yeah, because they made this.
Oh, sorry. Things, right? That by living in the 21st century in the United States, like you're complicit in all kinds of things without your choice, right? You live here and you're participating in all kinds of structures that are disadvantaging people like around the world. And so one of the questions, can you get out of it? And do we kind of do these conscious things just to make ourselves feel better without fundamentally challenging like the structure here.
I
Deep,
mean,
right? Go
like
ahead.
you were saying, it really comes down to the consumer. Because, like myself personally, the last year I've like completely switched around how I consume, primarily for environmental reasons. Of course, like I very much value human life, but it doesn't really matter if there's no planet. So, like, I literally spent like hours one time researching what kind of toothpaste I should be buying to be
Okay.
most environmentally conscious, and that's just me. So, it really comes down to like, do you care to make the changes? Do you care to spend more money on what you're buying? Or do you just want it quick, cheap, and easy because that's convenient? And I realized too that you kind of have to be in a place of privilege to be able to spend the extra dollars on a more environmentally or sustainable toothpaste or soap or whatever it may be.
Or
But
even the
it,
extra hours at the time, like
yeah,
time.
the time to like do the research. But it really just comes down to, if you can, I think personally, if you can afford to make those changes and you're not, then you're not doing your part as a consumer on planet Earth. So.
So the takeaway from that is Chloe thinks she's better than us. Yeah.
You see it on her face. I see
Yes,
it.
she is. She is.
But like,
She
I
totally is.
found by thinking of if I
Start
would.
over again, Emily. I missed the first part.
Oh, I said it's eye-opening to see that like Chloe would do this research. Like it's inspiring that you would think to like look up all these different things. But you know, to me, I'm like, it's almost overwhelming that you could spend hours trying to figure out just a toothpaste. Like,
And you might not find one that you like.
we're that far gone that there's not even, you know,
And
it's
you still may be caught up in some other way that you're not recognizing.
exactly, you try to help in one way, there's this other thing. I totally agree with the lesser of two evils. I think if you're able to do your part and help in whatever way you can, do that. But I mean, it's just probably impossible to completely, unless you're living out in like the forest or something,
Yeah.
Off grid.
you
Yeah.
know. So I don't
And
know.
even then, I think like you're, yeah, like that. There's that. I mean, there is access to information now that we didn't, you know, it was harder to get before. And so the kind of research that you're talking about is at least possible in ways that would have been a lot more onerous like 10 years ago. And so I know there's like apps now that will try to kind of get you a sense of like what's, but I think the other part of this, and I think your guys' kind of point about like the kind of masking, I think that complicates it even further because now you have companies that are in a cynical way, like that would be the argument, that they're intentionally trying to play off of your desire for like an environmental product, right? And so they will position their products, this is called greenwashing. They'll position their products as environmental and like we'll literally put it in green packaging. And so again, you may be thinking that you're making one choice as a consumer and not realizing that actually by making that choice, you're caught up in something else. And so like oil companies have been really big on this of kind of positioning themselves as environmentally friendly and spending money and all of this, but they're still depleting a natural resource. And so like, how do we work at this as a consumer? I think the car stuff is a really interesting kind of way to see this, that what does it mean to be like fuel efficient? At the end of the day, you're still dependent on like fossil fuels. Like, is that a distinction that we just, again, create for ourselves to make ourselves feel better? Or do these things actually matter? Probably not an either or here. There's been a lot of research about like even electric cars that again, like there's questions about how like the impact like batteries have and like whether or not they fully degrade and whether they might be having kind of negative environmental impacts. And so something like a Tesla still has like a large environmental footprint. It's just that footprint is not specific to like fossil fuel consumption. So does that balance out because it's not doing one thing? Do we factor in these new things?
Well,
Yeah.
they also go on products like long-term and short-term footprint as well. Like they're redoing products where say diapers for one hand, where it used to be like, well, it'll take 500 years for it to fully decompose in a landfill, whereas the new ones it'll take like I don't know the real numbers, but say like 50 years now. I mean, 50 years is still a really long time, but it's still better than 500 years.
An improvement, yeah. Very good. Any other general thoughts on this topic? I thought this was good.
You guys could use cloth diapers like I did.
Who won?
Old
No
school,
part of
baby.
that.
Old school.
They started making cloth sanitary pads for women too now, or I guess they always had them, but now they're like, I guess they're new fad now, but it's cool that they're more like people are more aware of them now.
Did you self launder in that? Like you wash it all yourself?
Yes, yes, yes.
No. Sorry.
Mhm.
There was a.
Yeah, but
But
it should be noted that my son is 38 years old. So,
I mean, still, that was still an era of disposables.
Yeah. No. I cloth diapers.
We lived in Pasadena, so Pasadena still has a service, and so they'll like launder it for you. I think it's one of the last in the country. It's a diaper service, and so they like bring you new bags of cloth every week, whatever, and then take the soiled ones. Yeah. Oof. I mean, do you see what kids produce? No, I don't know.
My friend has a 10-month-old, and since like the pandemic started, there was a shortage on both wipes and diapers, so she invested on cloth diapers.
Do you think are they going to stick with it after?
I'm not sure because I don't think she's used them, only because she hasn't run out, because like he's a baby still, and he got a lot of diapers from like the baby shower and all that. But I don't know. I don't know if she's tried them.
That's a labor-intensive process. Interesting. All right, this was good. I thought this was productive. We'll get you guys out here then. Real quick, again, like it's obviously been a weird semester, and I think it was good that we were able to kind of talk about our transition early and then kind of continued that conversation as we went on. If I didn't say it then, thank you guys for your cooperation and for your willingness to kind of adapt. Again, I know there's a lot going on, and a lot of that burden fell on students. And again, I was talking about this in one of the groups, but the surveys that came out from the university is just there's a lot of different experiences that you guys are going through. I would say in that context, like this should definitely be a period of self-advocacy, that you should be willing and able and to kind of go out there and kind of make your demands, ask for exceptions, keep your voices heard. I think I mentioned this earlier in the class, but I think there are times where professors were well-intentioned, but if you're not talking to your students and you're not getting that feedback, you don't always know kind of what impact your decisions are having. So to me, that always speaks to the importance of ideally professors kind of reaching out, but also for students to kind of have that voice heard as well, especially if it's done in a critical, in a constructive way. I don't think any professor really minds people telling them this is really difficult, or this is a challenge. Can we do something different? So as you move into fall, because it looks like we'll be online, I would keep that up and just kind of keep your voices heard and recognize what's important to you as a student and try to kind of get the most out of that. While also recognizing that this is a transition for us too, right? That I don't think anyone's intentionally trying to make this difficult on students. But yeah, thank you guys for your willingness to kind of be flexible on all this. My goal all along was to try to be as transparent as possible and to kind of be flexible where I could to help with this. But it definitely helps to have kind of willing participants on the other end. This class in particular, I think, because of what we had already kind of built before we transitioned, I think we minimized at least some of the worst elements of that change. So I think it was nice to have a good group of students who were already kind of talking to each other and willing to communicate with me. It's nice that we have a smaller class too. But wherever you're going, congratulations to Annette on scholarships. Congratulations to Emily on graduating.
Congratulations.
Good luck wherever your academic journey takes you. If I can be of assistance in any way in the future, don't hesitate to reach out. You guys are good to go. I'll stick around for a couple minutes if anyone has questions. Be healthy, be safe. Enjoy your time off now. Enjoy your binging, Chloe.
You too.
you for everything.
Thank
It's
you
been
so
a
much.
fun
Yeah,
class.
thank you.
No worries.
Thanks.
Thank
I
you.
almost dropped it when I first the first day, and then I'm glad I stuck it out because I needed it. But also,
The first day of the class or the transition?
well, no, I almost dropped your class because I was like, this seems too hard, and I have enough going